explaining to do.
TJ and I didn't want to share. Might be the honest answer.
That might have been the
Yeah, you know what? Ryan was walking down the hallway and he's like, Marlisa, this food's so good.
Yeah, it was
I don't know
not my finest moment.
I've got to admit that. Yeah, took 2 donuts the other day, too, by the way.
Yeah. I'm Marlisa. And we can say goodbye to everybody now because we have
that's true.
run out the clock. We're out of time. Enjoy your day.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Good Monday morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Marlisa Goldsmith in for Garrett Weimer. We have so much to get to here. Thanks for joining us live on Fox Local and on YouTube this morning, Monday, June 9th. One of the big stories that is leading this morning, a continuation from a story that began last Thursday morning when Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez was arrested that morning. So he has now been suspended by the governor. Our reporter Marley Capper has been following the developments of this, but just to bring you up to speed, the suspended sheriff has been accused of running an illegal gambling ring that has netted over $21 million out of a nightclub in Kissimmee. The judge set his bond at $1 million. And there were several stipulations, included a laundry list of stipulations saying that he needs to wear an ankle monitor if he is able to bond out. And he also has to prove that the money is clean money that is put up for this is not connected to any of this alleged gambling ring that he is accused of running. So there's still a lot to learn in this, but as of last check, he is still in the Lake County Jail. Again, Marley Capper has been following this story for us, and she brings us the very latest.
able to prove that he has $1 million. And so in order to do that, he needs to do a few different things. Maybe he's, showing post, stubs, pay stubs, or he's paying in cash for the $100,000. So there's lots of options, but like you mentioned, he does have to prove that none of it is from illicit funding. So kind of let's go over all of that. Like I mentioned, he could pay it in cash. He could use pay stubs to prove where the money's come from. He could use something like his house for collateral. He could even try to get a payment plan with a bail bondsman or bondswoman, but he needs a bond hearing first. And right now, according to the court dockets, he does not have one set. Fox 35 spoke to a defense attorney not associated with the case, but to tell us how long this could take. He says it's not a quick process and they have to verify all of that money.
He could certainly have a couple $100,000 or more in a retirement fund. He could have it saved. He could have it in stocks. And it would be very hard to say that that money was used, illegally. So as long as he puts up something to show that that money came from legal sources, they're going to have to allow him to use it to bond out.
And so since he's not on the docket, we're not sure when he'll be added, if he'll be added at all today. If he were to be added, it could be an hour. That defense attorney we talked to says it's a long process verifying everything. And so it could be later this afternoon, if at all today, that he's released. But for now, the jail here has him on an opposite side of the other inmates for his protection because he is former law enforcement, and that's a standard practice.
Sorry about that. Didn't realize my microphone wasn't back on. All right, here we go. So again, so a lot to process, a lot of developments that will continue to come out of this case throughout the day, but you can count on Fox 35 to stay on top of this for you. Again, as of this morning, no bond hearing has been set for suspended Sheriff Marcos Lopez, but Good Day Orlando anchor Ryan Elijah had a chance to sit down with attorney Whitney Bone to kind of find out more about the process. How does the bond process work when it comes to Lopez's case? Why hasn't he been able to bond yet? Is it just a money thing? Is it the fact of proving that this is clean money that he's going to be able to front? What is life going to look like when or if the suspended sheriff is able to bond out? Still a lot of information to go over. But again, Ryan Elijah sat down with this attorney who is not connected to this case to find out more. Let's take a listen.
I'm a little surprised he's still in jail because I thought he would bond out quickly, but then I'm a little surprised he's still in jail because I thought he would bond out quickly, but then when you read why, and you understand this is a high bar to clear, to show that money that he got from this alleged racketeering is not in his account.
Right. You cannot post bond from ill-gotten funds, ill-gotten gains. So that's actually a criterion that the court is supposed to look at in determining how it sets bond and in what amount. But it's also a threshold that the court can require of him in terms of not just the $100,000, which is the 10% that would potentially go through a bondsman or a bondswoman, but also the collateral, because there's going to have to be some collateral to post the $1 million bond. You know, it's not just the cash, it's also someone has to be on the hook for the full amount in case he doesn't appear to stand for these charges.
So he's not getting out until they decide this money is clear, and how long might that take?
Well, I've been in these situations before with clients, and I mean, usually what I'm doing is I'm working with a family member or somebody who's willing to post bond and who has the money either in, you know, something like a 401k account, or they have it in a home equity line, and they can show that they have, you know, the assets to post this bond, or even just the cash itself, you know, for the 10% here, the $100,000, maybe bank statements and, you know, pay stubs and stuff to show that this is legitimate money and in no way, shape, or form has it been mingled with illegal funds that came from this gambling operation that he's alleged to have been a part of.
And so as we sit this morning, he's already spent 4 nights in jail, and he is separated from the general population, which you would think would be kind of standard because he has been involved in law enforcement.
It's definitely standard. It's for his safety. It's for the safety of the other inmates as well. But I mean, he's considered to be in protective custody. That's what it's referred to within incarcerative facilities, because he's basically alone. He can't be with the general population of the other inmates. He's too easy of a target in terms of his physical safety being compromised.
Let's talk about what's next for him when he gets out. I mean, very unlikely given these charges that he would come back. He's also been suspended by the governor right now. What is next once he is released?
Well, once he's out, it sounds like he's going to be on a GPS monitor. He's had to forfeit his passport, so he's definitely not going to be able to leave the country. And then I would further guess He's going to be very limited in terms of his ability to move even throughout Florida. When you're on a GPS monitor as a term of pretrial release, there's exclusionary zones sometimes, but definitively you can't just leave the county, and go anywhere you want to go. It's highly unlikely, because they've also restricted his ability to have a firearm as a condition of pretrial release, that he could ever go back to working in his capacity as a sheriff while this is pending. But honestly, I mean, this is such a stain with regard to the arrest itself, and there being probable cause found for the arrest by a judge to issue a warrant for his arrest, that I don't know that he can ever go back.
Right. So interesting to see, and there's so many different sides of this. The money he turns over in terms of showing, could that be used for evidence later if they have his bank statements, or is it just to clear him from where the funds came from?
In my experience, what's probably the cleanest way to do this is somebody else post the bond for him.
Okay. Yeah. I got to think, if you're facing charges, the last thing you want to do is turn over your bank records.
Especially if they involve financial allegations such as these, that he may have benefited in the form of $600,000 to $700,000 from this illegal gambling operation.
That's a good point.
Again, still a lot to process here. There will be more developments that come out of this story throughout the day. You can count on Fox 35 to bring you the very latest. Listen, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. But on the other side of the break, we have a lot more stories to get to, one being a very somber day. This is the day that we are remembering that tragic shooting that killed 49 people at the Pulse nightclub. As we head to break, I will go ahead and send you off with a gorgeous shot over along the coast, a gorgeous shot at the Hard Rock Daytona Beach camera. As we head to break, we'll be right back in a couple minutes. Welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus. Here, Marlisa Goldsmith joining you on in for Garrett Weimer this morning. A lot in this show, but first we want to acknowledge that today marks 9 years since the Pulse shooting that killed 49 people, a very somber day. A lot of people remembering the lives that were taken that day, just a very tragic day. There's a Pulse ribbon ceremony that's happening, and there are plenty of events that are happening to honor and remember those victims, including their loved ones, began this weekend, and then another prayer ribbon memorial that's happening this morning. Fox 35's Morgan Parrish walks us through some of those events that are on deck. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Good morning. Yeah, so this is definitely an emotional week for a lot of people. Hard to believe that it's been nearly 9 years, but we're here outside of City Hall because that's where that new Prayer Ribbon Memorial exhibition is going to be set up. So here in Lou Gardens, there's going to be ribbons with the names of the 49 victims from the shooting at Pulse. We know there's also going to be some colorful ribbons with messages of hope. And earlier this weekend, lots of events already started, including the Community Rainbow Run, where organizers say 1,500 people showed up for that, all to show their support. And then later on this week, we know that the city of Orlando is inviting survivors and families of victims to tour the nightclub before it's torn down for a permanent memorial. Between Wednesday and Saturday, city guys are going to be taking small groups one at a time through the Pulse building, and then the groups will have about 30 minutes inside. We also learned that they'll have emotional support resources available on site. And the tour is only open for shooting survivors and family members of victims. And officials from the city of Orlando say that already they have received close to 100 requests from victims' families and survivors.
I think this is a beautiful opportunity for everyone to get together, show their support, and show their
Well, we certainly got a break from the rain over the weekend. It was a pleasant weekend, and now we're looking to a brand new work week, and I hear there are plenty of rain chances in the forecast. Joining us now is Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner. Hi there, Brooks.
Good morning, Marlisa, and I heard it in your voice. I feel the same. We've got a lot of dust out there this morning. It's come all the way from the Sahara Desert. Yeah. Are you feeling it? A little sneezy at times, a little eyes watering?
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because the baby this morning started sneezing and I was like, uh-oh, do I need to take her to the doctor? But it didn't seem like there were any other symptoms, so I'm glad you brought that. That probably is what it was.
Maybe, we hope. It can also be the scapegoat for actual colds and stuff, but it's probably just the dust. We'll call it the dust.
Oh my God, and the allergies too. You know the allergies here in Florida, it's just all a mess. It makes parenting really hard.
Oh my gosh, it's just, oh man. Sleep? What is sleep? Exactly.
What is it?
I know.
We don't know.
We don't know. We're both on the same level with little ones. Well, let's get to the weather. So this dust is going to be with us at times over the next couple of weeks, and it's coming in on the trade winds. Big windstorms hit the Sahara Desert, kicks up all the dust, goes up to like 5,000 feet. And then gets pushed all the way across the Atlantic. So it comes in waves. Some days are hazier than others. And we're going to have chances for this dust straight through the end of this month with the breaks in the action. But you'll know it's here when the otherwise blue sky looks a little bit hazy. And these little particles of dust, they're microscopic. They can get into your lungs, into your sinuses. If you got health issues like severe asthma, COPD, you'll want to have a rescue inhaler and all the stuff you have with you because it can definitely irritate things. If you're a healthy individual, it's more of just a curiosity or an annoyance if it makes you sneeze and cough a little bit. Maybe you have that frog in your throat. But what it does do on a positive note is it fertilizes the oceans, providing minerals that are considered very beneficial for oceans and corals. It can also produce red tides. It fertilizes all kinds of ocean things. But one really good thing it does is it tamps down tropical activity. So as long as the dust is present, our chance for tropical systems goes down a lot. And indeed, we have no tropical systems in the forecast. But for today, it will be hot. We'll have no shortage of very hot temperatures. We're going to top out at 95 in Orlando today, 95 in the Villages, 95 in Claremont, about 89 at Cocoa Beach. So there's going to be a little bit of a sea breeze at the beach. But it's not really going to have much effect beyond basically I-95 points west. There's not going to be much of of an effective sea breeze. So it's going to feel like 104 to 105 degrees today across much of the area. Just below heat advisory criteria, probably one of the hottest days we've had so far. Now, on a day like this, typically with heat and humidity in June, you'd get some thunderstorms. And we may have a couple of thunderstorms, but it looks like most of the action, if it comes to pass, and there's only a 30% chance, will hold off till about 6, 7 o'clock from roughly I-4 points east. The southwest flow in the Gulf is going to pretty much overwhelm any kind of impact of the Atlantic sea breeze, making it much past I-4. But where they collide, where the Gulf and Atlantic sea breezes collide about dinner time tonight, about 7 to 8 o'clock, we may see a couple of gusty thunderstorms developing. And with that Saharan dust in the air, that could make some of the thunderstorms gust a little bit more than they might otherwise. Winds may gust over 50 miles per hour with frequent cloud-to-ground lightning. That said, any storms will likely end early in the evening. Now, tomorrow we've got a much higher chance for rain, and here's why. Right now, we've got high pressure nosing into Florida. That's what that dashed line is. That represents what's called an axis of high pressure that starts out in the middle of the Atlantic, and it, like a big nose, boop, it noses right into Florida, and it induces a southwest wind. And so that southwest wind keeps the sea breeze tacked to the coast and keeps the storms out of our hair for the most part. Now, tomorrow, and as we head into the rest of the week, that ridge of high pressure, that nose, is going to work farther north before it finally sets up along the Florida-Georgia line. And in doing so, our storm-killing southwest flow will become a storm-inducing southeast flow. And that will allow the Gulf and the Atlantic sea breezes to collide right over the center of the state, leading to a high chance for afternoon storms just about each day. So that's a long-winded way of saying it's not going to rain much today, but it's going to rain a lot more tomorrow and through the rest of the work week. But that's the background as to why we'll see that change. All right, let's talk 7-day forecast. Highs today about 5 degrees warmer than normal. The dust won't be quite as thick tomorrow, and that'll also help to get the storms going. The dust can also dry out our storm chances. So tomorrow, with the dust being a little less prolific, we should see a higher prolificness of storms, more expansion, more blossoming of storms. Our storm chances remaining high through the end of the work week and likely. They may back off just a little bit Saturday, Sunday, but otherwise temperatures remaining above normal and storm chances remaining quite high. It's the rainy season. This is all normal stuff. We need the rain still, and so it looks like we'll definitely get some by the end of the week. But I'd say watch out for the lightning today is the #1 threat, and the wind will be a secondary but considerable threat if it rains where you live. So Marlisa, hopefully your little one isn't sneezing too much when you get home. Maybe it is just the dust. We had a doctor on Good Day Orlando earlier today saying that it's important to have one of those HIPAA, HEPA filters. Yeah, HIPAA's for medical secrets. Yeah. HEPA is the filter that can filter out the allergens. So if you have one of those like Honeywell filter things in your house, that'll definitely help you.
Definitely will. It certainly will. All right, Brooke. So what I gather from this forecast is I need to make sure that I keep my umbrella and rain jackets in the car.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes. Absolutely. We're settling into the heat, humidity, and unrelenting storms of summertime.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joining us. Brooks, try your best to stay dry.
Yeah, you too. Marlisa, always amazing to work with you. So glad you're here today. And I'll be back, I guess, tomorrow.
Sounds good. Good to see you, Brooks.
All right.
And speaking of weather, we are taking a live look at downtown Orlando here. This is a look facing Lake Eola there off into the distance. I'm sure a lot of events will be happening this week. Hopefully you listened to what Brooks had to say. Make sure you pack your umbrellas, your rain jackets, because you're certainly going to need them. Rain chances are high. We'll be right back with much more Fox 35 News Plus. Welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Marlisa Goldsmith in for Garrett Weimer here. We have a lot more to get to. The next story that we wanted to bring up was the Sumter County News Conference that happened this morning. Our reporter Randy Hildreth has been following this for us. So just to give you an update on what this is addressing a pretty serious report that was released over the weekend. A former superintendent and assistant superintendent have been accused of creating shell schools to remove low-performing students from school grades to increase their state funding that they were supposed to receive between the years of 2016 to 2021. This investigation stemmed from an anonymous complaint that was allegedly filed back in November of 2023. According to that complaint, there were about 200 students withdrawn from zoned schools without parental consent and then enrolled in these shell schools, if you will, to manipulate those school grades, which again, a lot of these counties rely on to get funding from the state. Wildwood Elementary is where many students were pulled from and went from a D grade school to a B grade school from 2017 to 2018 after those students were removed from the schools. The spokesperson for the district says that they will cooperate with the investigation and they're going to be reviewing all of the practices across the district. And the superintendent spoke on the allegations, his position in supporting the state investigation, and answered questions from reporters. So a very interesting story that's developing out of Sumter County. I want you to go ahead and take a listen to part of this news conference that was held this morning.
Per the report, there was approximately 200 students that were involved in moving the kids from their traditional school code to a virtual school code known as SOAR. Those students came from 4 different schools across the district. The schools impacted were Wildwood Elementary School, South Sumter Middle School, Wildwood Middle High School, and Webster Elementary School. Per the Inspector General's report, the budget impact for having this program to create the shell schools was between $400,000 and $500,000. And just as the new leader of the school district, I felt it was important to share this information because my philosophy on leadership is not only transparency, but as a superintendent, I'm responsible for everything that happens in this district. And I believe that the public has a right to know about the financial impact of it as well. And my mentor always had a saying. He said, "What would public education look like if we did what's best for kids and not what's best for adults?" And we can't hide kids. We have to educate them to the highest standard. And that's exactly what we're going to do going forward. Again, my philosophy is I'm the superintendent. I'm responsible for everything that happens here. But at the end of the day, this is the community school district. And we have to restore that trust that we're going to do everything to the highest degree of integrity. So with that being said, I will open it up for any questions.
As far as restoring that trust, and what are the practice steps the district is ensuring that something like this won't happen again?
Absolutely. So we've reviewed the full report in detail. We've obviously adjusted a lot of internal protocols in terms of moving schools of enrollment versus schools of instruction to ensure that those school codes are not happening and that students are staying to their assigned schools no matter what their performance outcomes look like.
So the program that's mentioned in this report, is that no longer active?
It's no longer active, no sir, and hasn't been since 2021.
You mentioned the budget impacts. Do you mind explaining, is the school district going to have to give this money back, or what is that?
In my initial conversations with the state, I don't believe we're going to have to pay any money back at this time. I will tell you, we have a great leadership at the state level with the Florida Department of Education. Our governor is the education governor. We've got a great commissioner of education, and they don't want to put us in a position where we're hurting students. And at this time, this was done under a previous administration, and them taking away money from kids now for the faults of a previous administration wouldn't be the right thing to do. So I don't believe that we're going to have to pay any money back. If we did, that would be a huge surprise to me.
And so I assume because this is no longer active, that the current school grades for these 4 schools in question, as well as the A grade that your district has, is based on accurate
place with students and is not based on that old system?
Absolutely. So the current grades that will come out this year will be 100% accurate. We have a great staff here in Sumter County. I'm proud of the work that our teachers do every day in and day out. This is unfortunate. Again, this is something that happened in the past, and we want to go forward and focus on the great things that we're doing well. The only thing that I can commit to you as the leader of the school district now is that this will never happen again.
I know the final report has come out. Some names are included in that report. You talked about some of the protocol to make sure this doesn't happen again. Have there been any internal leadership changes?
Absolutely, absolutely. The former assistant superintendent, we have a new assistant superintendent now. We've got new director of secondary education. We've made a lot of positive changes for the kids of Sumter County. And as the leader of this school district, I make changes based on three things, and in this order. I make decisions based on students first, the good of the overall district, and then good of the individual school or staff members. And if you put students first at the foundation of every decision that you make, then stuff like this can't happen.
To clarify, since the report has come out, you've made changes?
This was done prior to the report coming out, yes.
Okay.
Were the parents of the 200 students ever notified that their children were part of this and had been moved?
I believe the state sent notification to them as part of that. I don't know what that process looks like, but just from reading the report through, it said that they reached out to the students and families, and certain folks responded or something. But I don't know if every student involved, if they made contact with them or not. I'm not aware of that.
Do you have a number of, this is back to my other question, like we have removed X number of people since, or this number of people have been terminated?
I don't have that available right now, but my HR director, I will consult with her, and I can absolutely share that information with you.
Okay. Also a question.
Are there any other allegations against the former superintendent that?
As part of this report, there was some allegations regarding ESE, our exceptional student education, our students with disabilities. And in the initial report here that I read, it said that some of those things were referred to the Bureau of Exceptional Student Education. So I don't know what's going to come from that report, but it was mentioned in this. So that's the only thing that would be outstanding.
I have a question about the diplomas. So did this impact students who are graduating, like their diploma? Did parents notice anything? Did anything look different on the diploma when they were graduating?
No, ma'am. All of the diplomas would have been the same.
Gotcha. Okay. So the parents wouldn't have known until now. Like,
correct.
It would have seemed like a seal and been like, oh, what is this for?
Right. Everything would have been the same. Absolutely.
Look, this was an investigation that was already ongoing when you took office. Can you talk a little bit about if there was any involvement from you, your staff, with the investigators after the time that you took over, and what that cooperation was like for you guys?
Absolutely. So it's a very good question. Again, I think the report stated that this investigation started back in November of 2023. I took over in November of 2024, so a year after the investigation was initiated. We have not had any communication as a district level staff. I believe all of their interviews had happened prior to me taking over. And the first form of communication we got from the Department of Education and the Inspector General's office regarding this investigation was what was released.
So you didn't know about it until you got this report?
Oh, I knew that it was ongoing and knew that we were part of, absolutely. But in terms of having any, since I've taken over, had any staff been interviewed for it or anything, we have not had any of that.
So again, you just heard there that this investigation happened prior to the superintendent taking over for Sumter County Public Schools. But in an effort to be transparent, he has held this news conference to release information pertaining to that investigation. Again, a lot will develop over the course of the next several weeks and months. Randy Hildreth is following this story for us, so we can expect a live report from her later in our evening shows. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. Thanks so much for watching and streaming us here on this Monday morning. We will be right back.
quickly, but keep the price to be affordable for schools.
That's incredible. I'm glad that you have thought about that. It sounds like you have a lot of foresight when it comes to running this business. Before I let you go, for anyone who might be interested, because I'm sure a lot of people, maybe the school's out now, they're looking at things that they can get in place for next school year, or parents may even have some suggestions. Where can people find more information about you and what you all are doing online?
Yeah, so campusguardianangel.com, campusguardianangel.com. It's our website. You can go see both police and other stakeholders talking about their firsthand experiences of seeing our demonstrations. And then, as I say, we will be doing demonstrations at Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And then we're looking at doing one further north, maybe in Orange County or in Hillsborough. We'll see. But yeah, so come and see the demonstrations if you're interested, and we'll put a schedule up. Contact us through the website. We'll tell you when we're going to be in your neighborhood, and showing what we can do.
Oh, that would be awesome. We'd love to take part in that and take a look at that and check you out when you have a demonstration here a little bit closer to home for us.
Great. Sounds great. We'll look forward to it.
Yes, Justin, thanks so much again for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, so you just heard from the CEO and founder there of that company. Very fascinating work that they're doing when it comes to safety, particularly school safety with regard to school shootings. We're going to come back with much more here on Fox 35 News Plus, so don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus. We have major news coming out in the theme park world. If you're a huge fan, I know you probably beat me to the news, but if you're not and you're catching up, don't you worry, because we have just the person to fill us in. But this story is about remembering Muppet Vision 3D. So you all may know this past weekend or this weekend, Walt Disney World permanently closed Muppet Vision 3D. There are a couple other things that have closed with regards to that. The rest of Muppet's Courtyard. There was a 13-hour all-day send-off for the attraction. So this was a really big deal for fans alike, people visiting the park. And this was really cool. Jim Henson's daughter, Heather, she was the last guest to enter the last public showing of Muppet Vision 3D. We got a chance to see that video. Just so appreciative. It was so cool to really see her take part in that. But it was an emotional day for not just her, but a lot of fans. We want to go ahead and bring in one of our theme park experts, Drew Smith, also known as Drew Disney Dude on X. Let me go ahead and bring him in here to the fold. Let's see if I can pull him up. There you are. Hi there, Drew.
Hello. Thank you guys for bringing me on to talk about the Muppets. Yeah, it's sad to see it go, but like you said, it was a big glorious finale, as they would say in the show.
Yeah, okay, so walk me through because I'm trying to remember. It's been some years since I saw this. Remind me what all was there. This was a staple at the park.
Yeah, Muppet Vision had been here for over 34 years, and I was actually
Wow.
I was looking at some of the stats yesterday, and this is the first time in over 34 years that as of right now, there isn't
Mhm.
a Muppets themed attraction at a Disney park worldwide. So this is a pretty big closure. But to answer your question, yeah, Muppets Courtyard, it had Muppet Vision 3D, the attraction itself. You also had Pizza Rizzo, that quick service pizza restaurant. And then before we had a little Christmas shop. We had the Stage One company store with Muppets themed merchandise. And we also had Mama Melrose's, an Italian restaurant, and those had actually closed before Muppet Vision and Pizza Rizzo closed just the other day on June 7th. What you guys are seeing on screen right now was how busy it was on that final day. What I actually loved is that Disney extended the operating hours for Muppet Vision from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., so that gave everyone an extra 2 hours to enjoy the show. And the operations were the best that I've ever seen at Walt Disney World for a closing day. The staff, the cast members, they were ready, they were prepared. The line was stretching into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, but I never waited more than 25 minutes. So I think that was just a testament to how high of a capacity this attraction was and why people loved it because it was so easy to access.
Wow. And so tell me, how long did you spend at the attraction?
Yeah, I got there around 3 p.m. I didn't want to be there super early just because I knew I would be exhausted and I was still tired at the end of the day. But 7 hours was enough for me. I was just grateful to be there. I had seen the show so many times, just being fortunate to be a local here. But really just being there, being in the environment, I think my biggest takeaway was in life, most people, we don't normally cross paths, but the beautiful thing about these closing days is that everyone is there for the same reason. I
Mhm.
didn't talk to 99% of the people there, but I knew that everyone was there to say goodbye to something that had been part of their life for so long now. So to see it celebrated, to see it go out in a high note when everyone was happy celebrating its existence, I think was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah. And what would you say? I'm sure you saw a lot of emotion out there on that day. What would you say was one of the more touching moments that you saw? Maybe someone doing with their family or pictures that were being taken. What did you see?
Yeah, I think honestly, I'll give a big shout out to WWNT. They are another Disney site out here, and they had a giant celebration. They were actually the reason why Heather Henson was here. They invited her out, and
Oh,
Steve
wow.
Whitmire. Yeah, also Steve Whitmire, one of the main puppeteers in the show, did the voice of Kermit the Frog for a while. So just seeing them here because of WWNT, I think was phenomenal. Also the fact this is something that I missed, unfortunately, when I was in one of those final showings. But right at 10 p.m., whenever Muppet Vision permanently closed, and like you mentioned, Heather was the final guest ever to enter the building, which I just think is a beautiful send off. All of the fans in Muppet's Courtyard around the Miss Piggy fountain, they actually were singing Rainbow Connection. And I saw some people pretty emotional over that, because just Rainbow Connection, it's such an iconic Muppet song. And saying goodbye to the attraction with that moment, I think that those were definitely two of the biggest moments right at the end of the day.
Wow. I mean, when you said 34 years, it kind of put into perspective when you think of a lifetime, right? Like, wow, that's been around for a long time for a lot of our lives. And when it comes to what it's being replaced by, talk to me a little bit about that. It's going to be Monsters Inc., Door Coaster, and Monstropolis Miniland?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best word that I would use for this is transformation. There is part of an expansion here because where this Monsters Inc. coaster is going to be built, that's a cast member parking lot now. So Disney is extending the park with capacity with this all new coaster. And the whole area, we are actually being invited into Monstropolis because, the monsters need our laugh power now. That is the storyline of the roller coaster, which I think is super clever. When we're on the roller coaster, the laugh canisters are going to be right above us, collecting our laughter. So I think the storyline is super fun here. I am very excited for the door coaster. I'm a big fan of Monsters Inc. But what I'm mostly curious by is Disney says that there's going to be an all new theater show in the same theater where Muppet Vision was. So this is a pretty big shoe to fill. People have loved Muppet Vision like we've talked about for over 34 years. So how do you even attempt to come up with a new show that's going to
Mhm.
be living in that same space that people enjoy for decades to come? And I think what I'm also looking forward to is, what they do with that quick service location, how they theme that to Monsters Inc. And then also where Mama Melrose's was, that's going to be Harryhausen's, a sushi restaurant from Monsters Inc., which everyone loves. That's an iconic part of the film. So yeah, it's a perfect transformation here for Disney to optimize the parks, to bring in the more general family, the general audience, bring in IP in a big way like this. So over the next couple of years, that's what we're going to see over at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the response is going to be when it comes to the transition, because like you said, people love what they love. And this has
Mhm.
been a staple. It's been around forever. And sometimes, if we're honest, us humans, it takes a little bit of time when it comes to transition and change. So how do you think this will go over on some of the hardcore fans out there?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really glad you brought this up because just, part of me being a content creator and being on social media all the time is
Mhm.
I really do see what the diehard fan base is saying and what the general family is saying. For example, with the diehard fan base, they really haven't been happy about this, which again, I can understand. Emotions are a very powerful thing. It's been here for so long. The show was here my entire life and a decade plus. So it was here for a really long time. I think in full transparency, one of my biggest disappointments with what Disney has done is last November when they first announced that Monsters Inc. Land would be taking over this area and that Muppet Vision would be closing, is at the time they said Disney was having creative conversations about how to preserve Muppet Vision and maybe make it available again in the future for people to watch and enjoy again. But now that Muppet Vision is closed, we still don't have an update on that. So in my opinion, at this point, the word creative conversations isn't enough. I want specific details about how the fans of Muppet Vision are going to be able to experience the show again, whether that's in digital form, whether that's in physical form somewhere around the world. I want those details at this point. But I will say, me personally, I am very excited about Monsters Inc. Land because subjectively, that is my second all-time favorite Pixar franchise. And just knowing that we're going to get to walk into the Laugh Factory, have this vertical lift with the coaster where you're literally in the Laugh Factory going up and then boosting into the door vault. It sounds really fun. So I'm really excited for that. But when I'm looking at it through the eyes of a Muppets fan, Disney really needs those details here about how they can watch Muppet Vision again in the future.
Yeah, any chance that they'll release any more details in the coming weeks, or what's your sense on how we'll learn more information?
Yeah, I think that maybe one day coming up here, we could just see a Disney Parks blog article drop. One day they just randomly announce that. Even something that I've been thinking about is Disney's $1.5 billion investment with Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite. In my opinion, I think putting it inside of Fortnite to where
Hmm.
kids can watch the show, introduce it to an all new generation would be an awesome thing to do. And also the fact that we have Destination D23 coming up this August. So if Josh D'Amaro, the chairman of Disney Experiences, or whoever is presenting this panel, wants to be really transparent and upfront with the fans, well, do it in person. Be open, be honest, be a real person, be a real leader. But officially, we don't have anything yet, so stay tuned for that. But I hope that Disney does it in Fortnite digitally to introduce it to a new generation and also does something physically. That would be a happy balance and an objective win, in my opinion.
That's a really good idea, actually. Hopefully, they are out there listening because I think
We
a
will
lot of
see. We
people
will
would
see.
like that idea. Drew, Disney Dude, thanks so much for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We certainly appreciate all of your insight, as always.
Thank you for having me on. Real quick, I will say, don't forget also the fact that the Muppets aren't leaving Hollywood Studios entirely. We also got
Yes.
confirmation. Yeah, we got confirmation that 2026 they are going to be taking over Rock and Roller Coaster with music stars, all of the Muppets. So Rock and Roller Coaster, you have time to enjoy that through the end of 2025, and then there's going to be a really quick turnaround time on getting this coaster reimagined to feature the Muppets, which I think is awesome because Disney people have been asking Disney to do things quickly, and they're doing that here. So thankfully, it's not going to be too long without the Muppets at Hollywood Studios.
Oh, yeah, it's happening fast. Thank you so much for mentioning that and bringing that up. We appreciate it.
Thank you
Perfect.
for having me
So
on.
much to keep up with. Thanks so much for
Yes.
doing it for us, Drew.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll see you next time. Okay, you just heard major theme park news. Again, we can't do it without all of our theme park experts like Drew here for keeping us up to date on all of the theme park news here in Central Florida in our very own backyard. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fox 35 Plus and streaming us on Fox Local and on YouTube. Make sure you join us again at 2 o'clock for Florida Live. We'll see you then.